So that is 128. So your subnet mask now would not be classed for subnet, but it will be 255.255.255.128, because this value here, this bit that is borrowed, its value now would reflect on the subnet mask. It's not left out, but it is part of the network now instead of part of the host person. So these are the bits that are left, and they are part of the host person. Now our next network here, our next network address would be 192.168.0.128, simply because we have 127 here and we post. Let's say for instance we have a clock, and then our clock takes 19 seconds, and then we hold the we press the post button and we post it. Now when we release the post, it starts from 20. So that is exactly, we do not exhaust this, so it stops at 127. So this is where it's so the next one is going to be, we add 1 to this value here, because it's not 255 yet. If it is 255, this is what will change, this 0, but this is not yet at 255, so therefore you have to add 1 to whatever value that is in this last octet of the broadcast address for the next subnet. Okay guys, so this is exactly what, but we are doing this, and this is not what we're going to do for all, because there are times that you will have to add a bigger value than 1. So you have to be careful with that. Okay guys, so this is important. Now we're gonna have to maintain the same CIDR 25. That is why they call it as fixed length, because you're using the same amount. Okay, they all have to get the same 126 IP valid IP address for each department. That's why you call it as fixed length. Now the broadcast address for this one is also going to be 192. I'm gonna get that 192.168.0. Now what you're gonna get here is the same thing. That is, this sum of the bits here is 127. Look at it. The sum of the bits here, 126 from 64 to 1, is 127. So that is what we are going to add. This 127 is what you're going to add to whatever value that is in the same octet of the network address. So the network address, the octet here is 128, and this is 127. So if you add 127 to 128, this is what you get. Plus 128, how much does it give you? For me, it gives me 255. So 127 plus 128 gives you 255. So your broadcast address here is 255. So the first valid IP address is 192.168.0.129. You are just going to add 1 to whatever value that is here. So you pay attention to that, whatever value that is here. So I have 128, so if I add 1 to 128, I have 129. So that is what you have to do. Now the last valid IP address is that you're gonna have to subtract the 168.0.254, because we're gonna have to subtract 1 from 255. That is one thing. Now the subnet max remains. That's why you call it as fixed length, because all of them are CIDR 25, so their subnet max remain the same. So this is exactly the two subnets that we have. So because right now, if we want to get the next subnet, because this is 255, we're going to get out of this 0, we're going to have 1. So that's why, that's how you will know that you are correct. Okay, so this is it. We have our two subnets, and it ends exactly the broadcast address of the second subnet exactly at 255. If you have more or less, you are wrong. Okay, so you have to pay attention to that. Now let's look at example 2. Okay, right from here we're gonna look at example 2. So I hope you guys take this, and then we're gonna now take example 2, and this is exactly what I have to erase right from here. Okay, I have to erase all that. Okay guys, so example 2 is that we're gonna now look at our diagram. Now instead of 100 users, we want to get 50 users. Okay, Okay, 50 hosts per department. That is what we want to do now. We want to get 50 hosts per department, and we have to make sure that we have those 50 hosts per department. Now that is our assignment. 50 hosts. So we need to have more departments. Okay, we now say that we have about 4 departments. Okay, so we're gonna have to add our departments. Okay, so we're gonna have to add our departments. Okay, we have another department right here that is added right now by the administrator. So our network administrator adds another department here, and he said, this is my new department, and I want 50 users for each of these departments. So we're gonna have to just do that quickly. So let's say that we're gonna add 50 users here, and here also we're gonna add 50 users. Alright, so 50 50 50, both sides, 4 networks. That is what we're gonna do now. So let's go back to our subnetting. Our assignment is that, so 50 users. I'm gonna have to drop that drawing and then go back to my normal life. Okay guys, so this is exactly what we do. So we're gonna have to go back down to get yeah, so we're gonna have to get this formula again. So this formula has to come all the way up, because I really don't want to see this formula right here. I'm gonna have to bring that formula up. I'm gonna drag this up so that it comes a little closer to what I am doing, so you guys can see what I am doing, and I'll later move it somewhere around. Okay, good. Now the formula is 2 to the power of borrowed bits. Now remember, this is supposed to be 0 first. Okay, that is supposed to be 0 at first. Alright, so you have to convert all these bits and their bit values on top of them. Now what you will do is 2 to the power of borrowed bits. Now how many bits do I need to borrow to provide room for 4 sub networks from this network? So if I borrow 1 bit, before I write anything, I will say, if I borrow 1 bit, how many bits am I going to be left with? And then if I have those bits left with, how many host addresses can I have from there? You have to do 2 calculations. One, you have to calculate the number of subnets. If that is correct, you have to now calculate if the number of hosts per subnet can be accommodated by the number of subnets that you have. Okay, now one thing that we have here, if we borrow 1 bit, we're gonna have 2 subnets, which is less than what we have to look for. And if we borrow 2 bits, for instance, and 2 to the power of 2 gives us 4, and exactly we are looking for 4 subnets. Okay, and that's what we need. We need 4 subnets, and that is what we are going to work with. Okay, so now what is the formula to calculate? So now we borrowed 2 bits, so this bit turned to 1, and this other bit also will now turn to 1. So this remaining bits is here from 32 to 1 are the bits that are part of the host person. 64 and 128 are now being borrowed, and they're part of the network person. So now we borrowed 2 bits and we're left with 6 bits. 2 to the power of those 6 gives you 63. Okay, from my calculation it is equals to 63, and 2 minus 63 64, and 2 to the power of 6 is 2 to the power of 6 is 64, and minus 2 gives me 62. So we have 62 IP addresses, and we're looking for 50, which looks good. It is very, very fine. Now our bits, number of bits in the host network is going to be now this. So number of bits is 111 up to 26 of ones. Right from here, they're all part of the network. Okay guys, so that is one thing. Now let's